Here we go. In Heintika Sedra, in this week's Torah portion, Reddit Zich, it is speaking vegan about Zota Behema Asher Tochelu. This is the animals that you can eat. I think we learned something about this before. Behemos, Tohoros, the permissible animals. Un vegan behemoths asher lo tochelu, and the animals which you're not supposed to eat. Behemoths tameos, they're called impure animals. When the Torah get on, and the Torah gives us tzvei simanim, 2 signs to determine the animals, behemoths asher tochelu. Mala gera umafreses parsa. A kosher animal, it chews its cud. What does it mean it chews its cud? It cows and sheep and everything. Cows, there are basically only 3 kosher animals. Behemoths. There's cows and sheep and goats. That's all. Except for that, there's no other kosher behemoths. There's what we have chai. There's what's called a chaya. A chaya is like deer, antelope. It's listed all these things. Those you have to look and see. Anyway, all the animals that are kosher, they have to have male gera or mafris parsa. I guess that also deer also do. Deer, antelope. I guess they choose. What does it mean? How do they mean choose their cud? They eat their food and they swallow it, and then they leave it in their stomach, but they have several stomachs. They put it in their stomach, and then they can bring it back up and chew it. Someone once said that you can see the wisdom of Hashem because these are animals that they're not predatory animals, and they have to be able to eat quickly. When they find the place to eat, they have to eat quickly and then run away. And then when they run away, then they can, when they find a safe place, then they can regurgitate. Anyway, that's, you can take that what it's worth, but nevertheless, that is one of the signs of a kosher animal, that it's male gera, that it chews its cud. I guess food that's already been swallowed and is put in the stomach is called a cud. Also mafreses parsa. Mafreses parsa means that it has hooves, and the hooves are split. They're split. It says the pig is like the only animal in the world that it has split hooves, but it doesn't chew its cud. And I think a camel, also a rabbit, it chews its cud, but it doesn't have split hooves. There was where I do mivtzoyim, where I put tefillin on people in the middle of this big market. So I went in one of the stores over there that says he sold animals. And I asked him, he sold rabbits. I said, is it really true that rabbits, they chew their cud? And he said, listen, I'm not a person that believes in God. I don't believe in the Torah. You know, typical Israeli guy. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the Torah. He said, but this really knocked me out. He said, I work with animals, my whole life. I sell pet store. And I figured, here I got the Torah. And I checked, and yeah, they do. They chew their cud. I don't know. I never checked, but that's what he said. Okay, those are the 2 signs. They have to chew their cud. And together with that, they also have to have split hooves. It means split all the way down. Split. It's like almost like 2 toes, sort of. Okay, in the Simanim from Torah, Zainafran Svei Sugim. Those things that are signs in the Torah, there are 2 different types of signs. One is gormim. Gormim, what does it mean? Gormim, they cause. There are certain signs that things have that cause their nature. For instance, done durch dem was the behema is malagero mafis parsa. This is a behema Torah, and there was the fact that it chews its cud. That shows that it's that causes that it's a pure animal, that it's a permissible animal. Not that it's a permissible animal and these are signs of that. No, that this causes it, for some reason, these two things are causes of purity. Then there's other two signs. This is mavdilin. It's not a reason, it's not logical why. They just show that this is a pure animal. What is permissible and was not permissible. Was is faran in their zach mitzad atzmo, which is in the side. Was vered nisbora derech, which is clarified by means of the signs. Like for instance, you go into a store and you want to buy kosher food. Right? You want to buy kosher food. You want to buy kosher cookies. So you look at the package and you see that there's a sign on there that it's kosher. That kosher sign does not make the cookies kosher. The cookies are kosher and the sign shows that they're kosher. Right? That's kosher. So it's just an indication. Let's take another example. Male and female. The fact that a male has male organs of procreation, that is not just a sign that he's a male. That makes him into a male. That makes him into a male. In the universities in America, they're trying to say not. It's all whatever you think. But that's the fact. This is not just shows. It's not like a stamp on him. This causes. It's a cause to show. Okay. Panim is a Torah, the inside. So what is it now with the split hoof and raising the cud, chewing the cud? Is that just a sign, like a stamp on the thing? Or does that cause it to be? Let's see. Torah Chassidic, according to Torah Chassidic, verbind joins the mashal mit nimshal. It joins together the spiritual principle with the actual result. What does it mean? Hagam, their mashal is a fremder, even though that the mashal, the example, is a strange thing. Is mernid via mashal bilvad. All it is just like a strange. Okay, what are we talking about over here? Signs. There are some signs. Some signs cause a thing, and some signs are just what they are, just a sign of a thing. It just tells you what the thing is. It doesn't cause it to be. Okay, this is a spiritual, nice principle, a nice idea. Let's see how we can really make this relevant to us. Like we say, everything in the Torah is inside of us. What do we care if a split hoof and chewing the cud causes the animal to be kosher? Or it's just a sign, right? The animal is kosher, and these things are signs to show you that it's kosher. And from deswegen, nevertheless, verbindt men im mit nimshal, we can bring it down home to us. Warum? Because es is nita kein Zufall. There's no accident. Mikra stam, an occurrence which has no meaning. In Welt in the world, das was is a mashal zum nimshal. Everything has to be an example, a spiritual principle, which comes down into reality into us. The whole Torah is called Mashal HaKadmoni. The whole Torah is just a mashal. It's only examples, spiritual examples of things that actually are inside of us. And Chassidut brings it down. What is this? Well, you understand what I'm saying? We're talking about? Like sometimes they have poetry, right? They have poetry. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty said, this is talking about King George or somebody. And the Humpty Dumpty really refers to somebody else. The kids say the Humpty Dumpty, they don't know what they're talking about, but it really related, right, to something else. Sometimes you have songs, poems that talk about life, talk about death, and it's talking about a flower, a bird, or something like that. And really it's talking about something, it's a mashal, it's an example for something that's real. Same thing, the whole entire Torah, la'avdil, everything there is just an example for something real inside of us. So this idea of the kosher animal, not kosher animal, is it determined by its signs, or is it just can be discerned by its signs. Is weil nimmt sich from im, the physical world, therefore, takes it from the spiritual. What it says in the Torah, this is just an spiritual example from us. Der Inyan was is nimshal, when kommt herab, this example, this principle, when it comes down into the physical, into Nidrika Olam, into the lower world, is very thus mashal, that it becomes, I'm sorry, then it becomes a mashal. You can see the spirituality of the thing in this world. So therefore, that which we have an ox has these signs in it, that this becomes just this becomes an example, a spiritual example for something in the world. Like them, having beta move, having sugim, both types of signs, ashayches to their zachaline, to the thing alone. I feel the simonim, even those signs with sign and nitkain tam v'siba, even those signs, which are not a cause, which it seems obviously that's what the thing of the animal chewing its cud and split hooves, that obviously does not cause it to be kosher or not. How could that cause it to be? Obviously, it's a sign, right? Says nor. Says Rebbe, no. Nor mer nid via simonim of mavorazain, even though it seems that these split hooves are just like a sign to clarify, right? Like the stamp on the cookies. It's just clarifying that the cookies are kosher. The stamp doesn't make it kosher. Hab and oich zutan mit der zachalein. But it must be somehow or other connected to the thing itself. Nit zu felik is das simon. It's not just by accident is this sign that it has. Nor wenn de zach kommt herab, when it comes into the physical world, wer das der simon comes to be the sign to be meaningful to us. The mela is verstandig. Now we can understand as the zwei simonim, that these two signs from above, malagera, from chewing a cud and splitting the hooves, is vasfar asug simonim. This must be also a type of signs, vizolen nor arain, ze zollen nor arain. This also must, it has to, a Reingain come in. Hadas sutan mit zota behema asher tochelu. Okay, so it must be that these two signs of chewing the cud and splitting the hooves, this must be something that causes purity, causes the animal to be permissible. And this is also going to be relevant to us. But we have to copy this. We'll see how. Let's first of all see, what is this all talking about? Then animals. We're talking about not the animals and so, but eating the animals. The whole idea of eating. This is the animal which you should eat. What is this thing of eating? As men nemta chai, we take an animal, a tzomeach, a plant, or a domem, or a mineral, water, salt, right? Mineral things, or plants, vegetables. Und durch dem, by means of this, was men esst, and by means of eating it, wird es damu basika besaro, it becomes elevated to be a human being. As from them, domim, that from the mineral, from this salt or water, and from your asparagus, chai, and your steak, vert medaber, becomes a human being. Was durach them, by means of this, firt sich ois, the tachlis, this is the whole purpose of the mineral, plant, and animal. As ver nichlal in medaber, that it becomes included in human. In other words, what's it saying? God created the world in a certain way that there are things which have less consciousness and things that have more consciousness. There are things which are less alive and there are things that are more alive. Right? Life and consciousness, these are things which are, if you want to call it, godly. Things which are less godly and more godly. What's the purpose of these things? To elevate them. Now, that doesn't mean you should go and eat every blade of grass or there's only what you need. When a person eats something that he needs, so let's say he's really hungry and he eats a chicken, kills a chicken, so that, so to speak, elevates all the chickens in the world. It means that it's a good thing that there's a chicken, because if there wasn't, you couldn't eat a chicken. That was the idea of the Holy Temple. That's the idea of the sacrifices in the temple. They would elevate these parts of creation to be connected to the Creator. Elevation, that's the ultimate elevation. So really what it's supposed to be that if you look at it, you see that minerals are the food for plants. So mineral gets elevated by the plant. Plants, that's the main food for kosher animals, right? Kosher animals are what do they call it? Herbivorous? Herbivorous? This is called? Herminivorous? Anyway, carnivorous means that they eat meat. Kosher animals don't eat meat. Omnivorous means they eat also meat and vegetables. Sheep and cows and things like that, they don't eat animals usually. They're herbivorous. I don't know how to pronounce the word. Okay.
Herbivorous.
Herbivorous.
The vegans.
What? Herbivorous, yeah.
Herbivorous.
Herbivorous. All right, herbivorous. That's okay. Herbivorous, right. Good, all right. I mean, if they're vegans, it should be that vegans should be able to eat cows, because cows are vegans. Unless, I guess they don't like to eat other vegans. Maybe that's the Parshat. Okay. In any case, the mineral gets elevated by the plant. The plant gets elevated into the animal. The animal gets elevated into the human. And the human is supposed to be elevated into the Creator by means of using our energy to serve the Creator. So that ends up elevating the whole entire business to the Creator, which that's the idea. Everything is part of the creation. Und das, and dem Adam, the person himself, sein euch voran, in Yanim, was in ze is gleich zu domen. In every human being, there are certain aspects of a human being that are mineral. Mineral, your body, whether someach, that you grow, your chai, I guess maybe mineral is like your hair, your fingernails, the domim is like your body, and chai is your soul, your what do you say? That you want to live, you want to sleep. Al derech vi the Gemara zok, like it says, b'shalosha nidma. It says that the three ways a person in the Gemara Chagiga, it says 3 ways a person is similar to an animal. B'shalosha things a person is similar to an animal. Und es seinen Faran in Yanim, was is in ze, is abgeteilt, is different from domim tzomech chai. Midzei is an adam, is a person, mina medaber. So there's some ways that a man has a lot in common with plants, animals, rocks. People, we're creations in the world we have, but on the other hand, man is unique. Man is totally different from just like mineral, plant, animal, and human. The is nit der damit der tachlis. The main thing is not the mineral, plant, and animal of man. Right? Some people, there's all these different philosophies also that say that, just be like a plant, be like an animal. There's these Eastern things where you learn to meditate, so you lose your humanity. You lose you have no mother, you have no father, you have no time, there's no place. Be like a plant. Be like if you're really, really lucky, then you can be like a rock. You just don't care about anything. This is the goal. This is the goal. Well, I mean, it's a pretty strange goal. It means that you have to sort of dehumanize yourself and even de-animalize yourself and foliage yourself, whatever it's called, vegetize yourself, and just be like dead, like a rock right there. There's people in India, They said, this Swami, he sat for like 50 years. I remember once I learned, maybe I told you this, I used to be into this stuff, so I read a lot of these books. And, meditation and how you can be impervious to the world, and the world has no effect on you, and you're outside, you end all your reincarnations, and etc. And then finally, in one of these books, there's this picture of some fellow, I just couldn't really figure it out, sitting on a rock. And it's underneath it said it was in the Himalayas, and he has these sort of furs on him. And said, this is underneath, this is like the goal of the whole thing. This is Master Dharma. He had a name. He had a name that had like at least 40 letters in it. That was probably his first name. And he had this long name, and he said he has been sitting in the Himalayas for 30 years, has not eaten or drunk anything. 30 years. There he is. And I thought, this is my goal. This is what I'm working for. This is what I'm working. I mean, it doesn't, what's he going to do with all the money that he saved from eating? And not for me. Not for me. At that point, I threw away all the books. I decided I'm not going to be a Swami or whatever these things. To be like a rock, says the Rebbe, the purpose of life is to elevate. Elevate. The purpose of life is not to be like a rock or like a plant or like an animal. The tachlis, the purpose is, nor their midaber, the purpose is man. Is the whole purpose, the whole goal of plant, mineral, plant, and animal is when they are included in a human being. Azoy is oich der midaber gufo, also a human being. The inyanim was is in ze gleich zu dam tmechai, that those aspects of man that are similar to mineral, plant, and animal. Nit das is the mila from a zayin tachlis. This is not the purpose of man. Their tachlis is their inyan amidaber. Man himself was the human part of the human. You want to call it the conscience. Their tachlis from zayna ibrik and yanim. The whole purpose from these other aspects of man, namely the mineral part of man, plant, animal. The Damitz Me'achai was in him, which is in him, is as oich zeh, that also they should be included in this human part of man. Und in dem sollen nichlal werden. So in other words, a person always has to be at least a person. And the other aspects of his personality that he has, namely his body, his possessions, that's like the mineral part. His emotions, the things that's like the plant part, right? The animal, even his intellect that he uses in order to get along in the world, right? His intuitions to make money and things like that. Animals have that also. The animal part should be included in the human part. Unazoi is oich also the domim tzomeachai in general was their adam nuts that a person uses, the mineral, plant, and animal that a person uses, unzei veren nichlal in him, and they're enclosed in him. Is their tachlis? The purpose is they should be included in midaber shel adam, the human part of man. Because man has to not try to be like an animal. Durch them, by means of this, was der Mensch wird das Ausnutzen should use zu gepasst Leut sein Inyan Maila Adam. A person has to use all of the lower parts of the world and the lower parts of himself in order so that it should serve the highest part of him, which is man. And that, the next one the Rebbe is going to say, and the purpose of man is to be similar to the Creator. That's what we're going to learn, God willing, tomorrow. So what do we learn? What do we learn here? We learn that just like animals are, we can see that animals have signs that we can tell if they are kosher or not. And it could be that these signs cause them to be kosher or not. And the signs are chewing the cud and splitting the hooves. Also the same thing in man. Now we have to, the Rebbe says, remember though, what we're talking about, what does it mean the animals are kosher or not? Are they kosher to eat? And then the Rebbe explained the whole idea of eating. Why do we eat? We eat in order to elevate the world around us, to elevate the mineral, plant, and animal aspects of the world around us so that it should be incorporated into the human being, into us. And we'll talk about this more tomorrow. What's our purpose? What are we here for? This we'll talk about tomorrow. Okay.